When I found out my mother had sold the house, I felt like the ground had been ripped out from beneath me. The family home, the one I had grown up in, the one I thought would be mine when my father passed away, was gone. And what made it worse, the thing I couldn't wrap my head around, was that my mother hadn't told me, not a word, not even a whisper. She had quietly handed the money over to my younger sister, Erin, without so much as a conversation with me. It all hit me on a Wednesday afternoon, just like any other. I had been at work, going about my day, when I received a text from Erin. She asked if I was free to talk. I thought nothing of it at first, maybe something small, but when I called her back, the tone in her voice immediately told me something was wrong. "Mom sold the house," Erin said, almost too casually. I could hear the sound of pages rustling in the background, like she was multitasking, like she wasn't sure if this was something worth taking seriously. "What do you mean, sold the house?" I asked, my words coming out faster than I expected. "I mean," she paused, a brief flicker of hesitation before continuing. "She sold it. It's gone. The house. It's just gone. I don't know. Maybe you should talk to her about it." I stood there, the world around me suddenly feeling too loud, too fast. "When did this happen?" I asked, almost desperate to hear her say it wasn't true. "A couple of months ago," Erin replied. "She said it was time. She felt it was too much to keep up with after Dad passed, you know? She said she didn't want to keep the house anymore." I could hear my heart pounding in my chest. I felt like I was suffocating. The room around me began to spin. I was supposed to inherit that house. It was a given. We had talked about it. Dad had mentioned it to me on countless occasions, about how it would be mine one day, how I'd take care of it, keep the memories alive. And now, without even a word to me, my mother had sold it, without asking, without letting me know. "Why didn't she tell me?" I whispered, more to myself than Erin. "I don't know, but she gave me some of the money," Erin said, her voice lighter now, almost cheerful. "She said I could do whatever I wanted with it." A wave of anger surged through me, sharp and uncontrollable. I hadn't even been told. Not even a courtesy. My mind reeled, the pieces not fitting together. My mom had been the one who always said the house would stay in the family. And now she had sold it out from under me and handed the money to Erin. "Why?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Why didn't she tell me?" Erin paused. "I think she was just trying to make a fresh start, for herself. And, well, I don't know. I didn't really ask her much." I felt my throat tighten, a sharp pain gnawing at me. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but I knew I couldn't. Not yet. The betrayal was too fresh. It was too raw, but I wasn't going to let it go. I had to confront her. I had to know why she had done this. I couldn't just pretend it was fine. I ended the call, my hands shaking, the phone slipping from my grip onto the couch. My mind raced with questions, none of which had answers. The days that followed felt like a slow unraveling. I went through the motions, work, chores, dinner, but everything seemed to blur. The shock of Erin's call lingered like a cloud I couldn't shake. I could barely focus on anything except that thought. Why didn't she tell me? I spent hours in my own house, surrounded by the remnants of my old life, but it all felt foreign. My father's old books still sat on the shelves. The kitchen where we'd had countless family meals seemed like a place I no longer belonged. And Mom, my mom, the woman who raised me, who I trusted more than anyone, had betrayed me in a way I never expected. I tried calling her several times, but she never answered. It wasn't like her to ignore me. She had always been a phone call away, always there to listen, but this time there was silence, the kind of silence that leaves you feeling more alone than you ever thought possible. By the time I finally got her on the phone, I was too angry to even speak at first. The words I had rehearsed over and over in my head evaporated when I heard her voice. She sounded calm, almost too calm. "Mom," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the frustration burning in my chest. "What is going on? Why didn't you tell me about the house?" She paused for a moment, her sigh muffled on the other end. "I thought you'd understand, honey," she said, her voice soft, almost apologetic. "It was too much for me to handle. After your father passed, I couldn't take care of it anymore. It was time to move on." I closed my eyes, trying to calm myself. I had to stay composed to get to the heart of this, but the hurt was undeniable. "You didn't think I'd want to know? That maybe I'd want to keep the house? You didn't think you could ask me about it?" There was a long silence before she spoke again. "I didn't want to burden you. You've got your own life, your own things to worry about. I thought this would be easier for everyone." "Easier?" I said, almost laughing through the anger. "Easier for who, Mom? For you or for me? You don't get to make decisions like this without telling me. I thought we were a team." "I thought you'd be okay with it," she said quietly, almost as if trying to convince herself. "It's just a house, honey. I couldn't live there anymore. I didn't want to be tied to all those memories. It's not healthy." Her words hit me like a slap. "It's not just a house, Mom. It's our home, the one Dad built, the place where we grew up. And you just sold it?" Her voice cracked a little then. "I thought you'd be fine. Aaron needed the money. She was going through a rough time. I thought it would help her." The words stung, each one like a tiny dagger. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You sold it for Aaron." She didn't respond immediately, and for a brief moment I thought she might cry, but then she steadied herself. "I just wanted to do what was best for both of you. Erin's younger, she's struggling, and I thought if she had that money, it might help her get ahead." I was silent, feeling the rage pulse in my veins. "And what about me, Mom? What about the fact that you ignored me, that you didn't even think to tell me?" "I didn't want to hurt you," she said softly, and I could hear the guilt in her voice. I didn't know how to explain it. I swallowed hard, trying to push back the tears. "You didn't know how to explain it. So you just kept me in the dark? You sold the family home and handed it all to Aaron, and I'm supposed to be fine with that?" "I thought you'd understand," she repeated, almost pleading now. "I thought it would be easier this way. I didn't want to fight." But the fight had already started, and I wasn't about to let her get away with this. "I can't believe you did this, Mom. I can't believe you didn't think I deserved to know. You didn't even give me a choice." There was another long silence, and then she sighed. "I'm sorry, honey. I didn't mean for it to happen this way." "Sorry doesn't fix us, Mom," I said, my voice shaking. "You took away something that was mine, something I should have had a say in." I could hear her take a deep breath. "I never meant to hurt you. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this," I said, my voice quieter now, but heavy with finality. I hung up the phone, feeling more alone than I ever had. The days that followed felt like a fog, thick and suffocating, as though I was moving through a world that didn't quite make sense anymore. I had tried to keep things normal, at work, with friends, but the truth weighed on me heavily. My mother's betrayal had cut deeper than I ever expected, and now there was the sharp sting of knowing that it wasn't just, just a mistake on her part. It was a choice that had been made behind my back. And the worst part, she didn't seem to understand why I was so hurt. I didn't speak to her for a week after that phone call. The silence between us was deafening, and I could feel the distance growing every day. I had tried to process everything, tried to make sense of the reasons she gave me, but nothing felt right. The house wasn't just a building. It was a part of our family's history, our identity. It was a piece of Dad that she had just sold. Erin tried to reach out a few times too. She called once and sent a few texts asking how I was, but the truth was, I didn't want to talk to her either. I was angry at her for accepting the money without any acknowledgement of how wrong it all was. She knew. I could see it in her eyes whenever we were together. She knew I wasn't okay with this, but she still acted like everything was fine. She didn't seem to understand the gravity of what had happened. Or maybe she just didn't care. I finally broke the silence one evening when I received another text from Erin. She wanted to meet. I hesitated for a moment, weighing my options, but in the end, I agreed. I didn't know what I was hoping for, but I was sure that if I didn't say something now, it would eat me alive. We met at a small cafe, the kind of place we used to go to when we were younger. Erin arrived first, her usual bubbly self, but her smile faltered when she saw the look on my face. I couldn't bring myself to smile back. "Hey, sis," she said, her voice a little too light. "How are you doing?" I sat down across from her, folding my hands tightly in my lap. "How am I doing?" I repeated, shaking my head. "I'm not sure, Erin. You've taken something from me. Something I thought would always be mine. Something that belonged to both of us." Erin looked uncomfortable now, shifting in her seat. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said softly, but I could hear the defensiveness creeping in. "I really didn't. Mom and I talked about it, and she said she was doing what was best for everyone." I bit my lip, trying to keep the emotion from overwhelming me. What was best for everyone? How could selling the house and giving you the money be what's best for everyone, Erin? I didn't even get a say. It was just done, like I didn't matter, like my feelings didn't matter. She winced at my words, and I saw the guilt flash across her face. "I didn't know what to do," she said quietly. "Mom said it was what she needed. I thought you'd be okay with it. She thought you'd be okay with it." "Did you think I'd be okay with it?" I asked, my voice rising. "Did you think it was fine to just accept the money, to just pretend everything was okay when you knew it wasn't?" Erin hesitated, her hands twisting in front of her. "I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to upset you. I thought if I took the money, it would help all of us move on. I never meant to hurt you." I could see the regret in her eyes, but it wasn't enough. It never felt like enough. She hadn't stood up for me. She hadn't questioned Mom. She hadn't even thought twice about the fact that I was being left out of this huge decision. She was my sister. She was supposed to be my ally. But instead, she had sided with Mom. She'd accepted the money, no questions asked. I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. Erin looked up at me, eyes wide with confusion and a little fear. "I don't know how to fix this, Erin," I said, my voice low but firm. "I really don't. But I can't pretend that everything is okay. I can't just forgive. This, not yet. Her face fell, and I saw the weight of her own guilt settle on her. But it wasn't enough. Not this time. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I said quietly, turning to leave. But I need you to understand why I'm hurt. This wasn't just about the house. It was about the trust, about the family, about me. I walked out without looking back. There was nothing else to say. I wasn't ready to forgive. I didn't know if I ever would be. The days after my conversation with Aaron were filled with more silence. But this time, it wasn't just between me and her. It was between me and my mother. It was between me and the whole world, really. I felt as though I was living in a space where nothing made sense. Like I was suspended between the anger I couldn't shake and the hurt I didn't know how to process. I spent hours sitting in my father's old chair, the one by the window where he used to read his books, the one that had always been so comforting to me. The sun would set in that same corner of the room, casting long shadows across the floor, and I'd stare at the space where his chair used to sit. But now, without him there, it just felt hollow. I couldn't bring myself to even touch his things, his books, the little knickknacks he had collected over the years. Everything felt like a reminder that I had been shut out. I had tried to reach my mother again. I had called her a few times, but there was no answer. And when she finally did pick up, her voice was distant, almost strained. "Mom, I need to talk," I said, my words coming out softer than I had planned. "I know you're upset," she replied quickly. "I thought we could give it some time, let things calm down." "Time?" I nearly shouted, but I caught myself. "It's been weeks, Mom, weeks, and you think time is going to make this okay? How could you just do this? How could you sell the house without even telling me, without asking me what I wanted? What happened to the family we were supposed to be?" There was a long silence on the other end, and I could hear the weight of her guilt in the space between us. Finally, she spoke, her voice small. "I didn't want to burden you. You've always been the strong one. And Aaron, she needed help. I thought you'd be fine. I thought you'd understand." "Understand?" I echoed, the anger rising in my chest again. "I don't understand. You took everything from me, Mom. That house was my memory, my father's legacy. I thought you knew how much it meant to me, and yet you gave it all away without even telling me. And now I don't know where we go from here." She let out a long, exhausted sigh, and I could almost hear her wiping her eyes. I didn't know what else to do. I've been trying to move on from everything, trying to get my life back in order, but I didn't realize I was leaving you behind. "I'm sorry, honey. I thought you'd be okay with it." Her apology felt hollow, like it was too late. She didn't understand. She didn't grasp the depth of the hurt she had caused. Maybe she thought it was just about the house, about the money, but it was never about that. It was about trust. It was about the fact that she had kept me in the dark, kept me at arm's length, while she made decisions that affected our entire family. "I'm not okay with it," I said, my voice trembling with the weight of everything I had been holding in. "And I don't know if I can forgive you for this." There was a long silence, and for a moment I wondered if she would say something else, try to fix it. But all she said was a quiet, "I understand." I ended the call soon after, and I stood there for a long while, staring at the phone. The distance between me and my mother felt insurmountable. I wasn't sure how to bridge it, or if I even could. I wasn't ready to forgive her. I didn't know if I ever would be. But there was something else, something I hadn't fully grasped until that moment. I wasn't just fighting to reclaim a house. I was fighting for the relationship I had lost, the trust that had been broken, and the family I thought I knew. But in that moment, as I stood there, alone, in the quiet house, I realized something important. I didn't need to forgive her to move forward. I didn't need her approval, her apology. I could choose to walk away from this, not with anger, but with my dignity intact. I needed to heal, to let go of what I couldn't control, and to find my own way forward. The weeks after my conversation with Mom felt like a turning point, but in a strange way, I felt like I was moving in two different directions at once. Part of me wanted to hold on to the anger, the hurt. I wanted to make sure that she understood just how deeply she had wounded me. But another part of me, stronger, more persistent, knew that holding on to that anger would only keep me stuck, and I wasn't willing to stay stuck. Not anymore. I had always prided myself on being a strong person. I was the one who held the family together, the one who was there to make things right, to make sense of the chaos. But this was different. This was a betrayal I hadn't seen coming. It wasn't just the house that had been taken from me. It was the trust I had placed in my mother, in my family. And that was harder to reclaim. But I wasn't going to stay in that place of hurt. I couldn't. For my own sake, I had to move forward. I had to find my peace. I decided to go back to the house one afternoon. It felt like the right thing to do, even though it was painful. There were still things left behind. My dad's things, my things, memories I hadn't been able to let go of. But when I walked through the door, it was different. The house was empty. There was no life left in it. No dad sitting in his chair. No sound of Mom moving around in the kitchen. It felt hollow, like the walls were mourning too. I took a deep breath, my hand resting on the door frame. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew that whatever it was, I wouldn't find it here. I walked through the rooms, slowly, taking everything in. The family photos on the walls were the only things that felt familiar, but even they, now, seemed distant. It was like walking through someone else's memories. I walked into my old bedroom. It felt strange being in there again, a space I had left behind years ago. The bed was gone, and the walls, which had once been a soft, comforting shade of blue, were bare. But there was still something comforting about being there, like a piece of me was still there, holding on to the past. I sat down on the floor, staring at the empty space around me. The anger and betrayal were still there, yes, but now there was something else, something softer, quieter. It was grief, but not for the house or the things that had been left behind. It was grief for what I had lost in my relationship with my mom, grief for the way things had changed, for the trust that had been broken. But in that moment, I realized something important. I didn't have to stay angry to feel empowered. I could feel the hurt, the loss, and still move forward. I could choose to heal, to forgive, not for her, but for me. When I left the house that day, I didn't feel like I had reclaimed anything material, but I felt like I had taken back a piece of my power. The house was gone, but the memories I had of my father, of the life we had there, were mine to keep, and no one could take that from me. Later that week, I called Aaron. The conversation wasn't easy, but it was necessary. We both knew that things between us couldn't stay the way they were. "I'm still hurt, Aaron," I said softly, "but I'm trying to move on. I need you to understand that this isn't just about the house. It's about trust. It's about what we lost when we didn't talk to each other. But I don't want to stay angry. I don't want to lose you." She was silent for a moment, and then she spoke, her voice quieter than usual. "I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't realize how much this would hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing." "I know you didn't mean to hurt me," I said, "but it's going to take time. I need time." We both agreed that we couldn't go back to what we were, but we could start again, slowly, carefully, with honesty. I didn't know if I would ever fully forgive my mother. I didn't know if I would ever feel the same way about her, but I knew that I had to choose my peace over my resentment. I had to let go of the past so I could move forward, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. The weeks after that conversation with Aaron were still filled with the kind of quiet tension I had never imagined would exist between us. We were rebuilding our connection, but there was a new layer to our relationship now, one made of carefully measured steps and unspoken boundaries. I wasn't sure where things would land with Aaron, but the one thing I did know was that I couldn't keep allowing the past to control my future. I didn't call my mother for a while. I wasn't ready. There were too many raw emotions, too much unfinished business. I knew, deep down, that I couldn't pretend everything was okay, not until I had a chance to process everything, not until I could breathe again without feeling the weight of that betrayal in my chest. The house gone, the trust broken. But in all of this, I was learning something I hadn't realized before. I was stronger than I thought, but the phone call came sooner than I expected. It was a Thursday evening, and I had just finished a late dinner when the ringtone pulled me back into reality. Mom. I stared at the screen, unsure of what I was going to say. I knew what I had to say, but it didn't make it any easier. After a long moment, I took a deep breath and answered. "Hello?" "May." Her voice came through, softer than I expected. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I want to talk. I really do." I squeezed my eyes shut. "We've talked, Mom. We've said everything we needed to say." There was a pause on the other end. "I know, but I still feel like I owe you more than just an apology. I never wanted you to feel left out. I thought I was doing what was best for everyone, and I see now that I hurt you in the process. I'm so sorry." Her words landed like a heavy stone in my stomach. I could hear the genuine remorse in her voice, but it didn't make the sting go away. It didn't change the fact that she hadn't trusted me enough to include me in the decision that impacted our whole family. "I don't know how we get past this, Mom," I said quietly. "I don't know if I can forgive you right now. What you did, selling the house, keeping me out of it, it wasn't just about the property. It was about you not trusting me with a decision that affected me. That's what hurt the most." "I understand," she said, her voice cracking. "I understand now, but I need you to know I never meant to hurt you. I've been selfish, and I'm sorry for that." I sat in silence for a moment, feeling my pulse slow down. I wanted to tell her that it was fine, that I understood, but I couldn't. It wasn't fine, and I wasn't sure if it ever would be. "I'm not ready to forgive you yet," I finally said, "but I'm willing to try. I can't forget, but I can start from here. We can start over, but It's going to take time. She was quiet for a long time before speaking again. I'll wait. I understand, May, and I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. It was the first time I felt like maybe, just maybe, we could begin to rebuild something. Not the same relationship we had before, but something new, something stronger. When we hung up, I didn't feel any sense of closure, but I did feel lighter, like I had just set down a burden I didn't even know I was carrying. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had done what I needed to do. I had faced the pain, the disappointment, and the anger head on, and I had chosen to move forward. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I was ready for whatever came next. Later that night, I took a walk through the park near my apartment, the cool evening air wrapping around me like a blanket. I let my mind wander, thinking about everything I had lost and everything I had gained. I had started out feeling small, as if the world had been taken from me without warning. But now, as I stood under the dim light of the street lamps, I realized something important. I was more than just a product of my family's choices. I was my own person, with my own strength, my own path. The pain wasn't gone, but it was no longer the only thing I could see, and that, in itself, was a kind of healing. The months after my conversation with Mom were both healing and difficult. Our relationship was slowly starting to rebuild, but it was fragile. There were still moments when I felt the sting of betrayal. Still moments when I could hear my father's voice echoing in the rooms of the house that was no longer mine. I would visit the place where I grew up, standing at the empty gates, staring at what was once our family's legacy. It felt wrong to even look at it, but I needed to, for my own sake. I needed to reclaim the memories that had been taken from me. The hardest part was figuring out what came next. I couldn't go back to the person I was before. I couldn't pretend everything was fine, but I could go forward. I could move forward with the knowledge that my worth wasn't tied to that house, to my mother's choices, or to the things that had been sold off to make room for new beginnings. One afternoon, I found myself sitting on the porch of my own small apartment, sipping a cup of coffee, watching the world go by. The city was bustling, people rushing from place to place, but I was at peace. It had taken time, a lot of time, but I was finally at peace with my choices. I had let go of the past in a way that felt right for me, and though I still carried the scars, I carried them with strength now, not shame. Erin called me that evening. The conversation was different this time, less awkward, less forced. She told me she'd been thinking about everything too, about how we could work through it. We didn't make promises to fix everything, but we did agree to start talking more honestly with each other, to let the walls between us come down. For the first time in a long time, I felt like my sister and I might have a future beyond the hurt. I didn't call my mother right away. I knew it would take time before I could talk to her again without that old bitterness creeping back in. But I started making small changes, keeping the lines of communication open, checking in more frequently. I still didn't know what the future held for us, but I was willing to find out. One evening, about 6 months after everything had fallen apart, I stood in front of a mirror, putting on a dress I had bought just for myself. I had treated myself to something new, something beautiful. I wasn't dressing up for anyone else. I was doing it because I wanted to. And for the first time in a long time, I saw someone who was ready to take on the world, not as a victim of the choices of others, but as a woman who was reclaiming her life. I made the decision then to start anew, not just with my family, but with everything. I wasn't going to let the past continue to hold me captive. I was ready to live. I was ready to move on, to forgive, not because I owed anyone forgiveness, but because I owed it to myself. Mom called a few days after that, her voice tentative, but still filled with love. I've been thinking, May. I've been thinking about everything. And I just want you to know I'm here whenever you're ready. I took a deep breath before I spoke. I'm not ready yet, Mom, but I will be. Just give me time. The next few weeks were quieter. We spoke less, but I knew we were both working through the things that needed to be said. The tension between us wasn't gone, but it wasn't suffocating me anymore. I had stopped waiting for things to go back to the way they were and started accepting that they wouldn't. But that didn't mean we couldn't rebuild. The house was gone, but the family wasn't. Not yet. And maybe that was enough for now. Sometimes we have to lose what we think defines us in order to find the strength to become who we were always meant to be. I may never fully understand why my mother made the choices she did, but I've learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward. Have you ever faced a betrayal that forced you to change? How did you find the strength to rebuild? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about rebuilding after life's toughest moments.